My name is Caitlin Hogan and I'm applying to be one of your workshop leaders and a floral designer. So let's get started. Also, I am dog sitting and I have 5 beautiful but sometimes noisy golden retrievers here with me. So if you guys hear some background noises, it's probably that. And I have the door open so you can hear some of that Midwest summer bug noises. But yeah, let's get started on the bouquet. So what I like to do for bridal bouquets is to start with my greenery. I find it makes a really nice grid for the flowers. And it also is super helpful to get that right shape that we're going to go for the bouquet. So I'm going to lay some of the pieces out. I also like to lay it out too because it gives your eyes a chance to see, what you're working with. Sometimes in the vase it can get a little cluttered, so this just gives you a clear look of what you're going for. Also going to get some Solidago out. It's nice too to mix up the greeneries that you have for your grid for the base of the bouquet, because just having that dimension and the diversity really makes, it draws your eyes to it, makes the bouquet pop. So I'm going to get a few stems of that. Okay, so just start with your hand. If you're right-handed, you're going to be probably placing the flowers with that. So I like to take my non-dominant hand, my left hand, and I'm going to hold it pretty loosely, almost like your hand is the base for the flowers. And I'm going to just start by laying a piece into the side a little bit, getting a good grip, keeping it pretty loose. And let's get another thinner piece that's not quite as bulky. And I'm literally just going to place it right on top, right next to each other. And already I have this X design, and I'm going to place one more kind of in the back, and I'm going to take it right through the center, the other two. Start making that grid I talked about, just a strong structure for the flowers to go into. I'm going to place it right like that. I also want to put a piece, this one is a little bit big, I'm going to take a few pieces off the bottom right here, make it a little bit more manageable for the front. Because sometimes you will find when you're making a bouquet that you make it a little bit flat. So what I've learned to do is take some pieces right in the front, kind of going right at the people. There we go. Pull it in just a little bit. You don't want to go too far out. Just like that. That way at all angles you have a nice, it's not going to be flat. It's going to look good from all angles. There we go. Put that in place. Now I'm going to go in my second kind of greenery here. Place these spare pieces off to the side. And you want to follow the natural, at least I like to follow the natural look of the branch. This one's just pretty much upright, so it's a great piece to go right in the back. Get some of this bare spots covered up, so I'm going to place it right in there. Making sure to interlock with the center of the other stems right in my hand, keeping it nice and loose but secure. Take this other piece, it's pretty upright. I'm going to take it in the other side in the back. Right through the center. And I like to keep them a little bit longer. You can always come through and pull the bottom to make it tucked in a little bit more, but sometimes you can get too tight in the beginning and then it's really hard to go the opposite way. So keep it a little bit looser. And you can see this one is kind of draping forward a little bit, and I love that. I think that would look really pretty in the front. So I'm going to take this right into that front corner, right like that. You kind of have it draping towards it, so it's got some nice dimension there. And this piece also is draping some, and I don't want to put it all in the same spot, so I'm going to take it right in the other corner. I will say though, odd numbers in bouquets are really appealing to the eyes, so it's great to work in 3s or 5s. Sometimes even 1 can look really nice. Something about that odd number really looks great in bouquet. For this last piece, I'm going to take it right into the very center where I kind of have a hole. Right down there, keeping it upright just a little. Spin that in my hand a little bit. Okay. And you can kind of work with your stems as you go. If they get a little misplaced when you're adding, that's okay. Just kind of take a quick second and rearrange them again so they're back to how you're wanting them. So these are my greens. That's a great base to have for the flowers. I will say there's a little spot in the back here that's a little flat, and I kept a piece off to the side in case. This one is a little bit big. I'm going to go ahead and trim this down a little bit. Alright. I'm going to take it right through the center. Place it right towards the back. Just like that. So that way it's nice and filled in now. Alright, so when you start to add your flowers, I love to start with some of the bigger flowers. In this bouquet, we're going to have 2 different kinds of roses. So I'm going to take one of these really beautiful dark pink roses, and you want to have all these leaves picked off. So you can just take your hand and slide it down. I already took off all the thorns off the roses so I don't stab myself. But yeah, I want to create like a nice grid with the flowers. And you know, I'm noticing too, this one piece is just bugging me with where it's laying. So I'm going to try to move it around a little bit. So it's kind of losing that oblong shape that I like to go for. So I'm going to see if I can just pull it actually straight through and replace it. Let's see. Nice. This is when it comes in handy too, to keep your hand nice and loose, so that way it still looks great. And sometimes that happens, and that's kind of the beauty. You can change it as you go. So I'm going to replace it right through the center, right at the angle, so it gets that nice kind of sideways shape that I love to do. Right like that. Very nice. Okay, awesome. I'm going to go ahead and clear the table off some too. I find that keeping your workspace clean as you're designing helps your brain. One time a floral designer said that if your brain is cluttered, then your work will look cluttered too. And I'd like to keep that in mind. Okay, so for placing the flowers, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this right into this top right hand corner. Just kind of wiggle it through the center. It's still pretty loose in the grid, but it's starting to get a little bit more secure, which is great. So I'm going to keep that up a little bit higher because it's always easier to tuck it down lower than it is to get it up higher a little later on. So pull out these leaves. Also, you will find that on your roses, there's some guard petals. I like to tuck those off. Sometimes they can look a little bruised. I just find they look a lot more cleaned up with them off. So, pluck those right off. Tuck this right in here. Just on the opposite side of the other one. Sometimes it can look really nice to cluster your flowers, but for a bridal bouquet and such big flowers, I'm going to try to keep them a little bit more separated. Just like that. Here. And you can just kind of do a little small detail work as you're going. Like I always kind of pause and take a break, peek at it. And I'm going to start tucking some of this greenery down just a little bit. I found I put it a little too high because you want the flowers to be the showcase. So you want to tuck those greens in just a little bit more as you go. So that's really what's going to be the center is the big flowers. So keep those right up above the greens. I'm going to add one more rose for now. Again, working in those odd numbers, so having 3 is going to look really nice. Pluck off those little foliages. I'm going to put this right here in the front. Another thing to keep an eye on too as you're designing is to not have all the flowers that are the same on the same height. You want to have alternating heights and just kind of playing with them, pulling some out, tucking some in a little deeper will really add dimension and make your bouquet a lot better. Again, just clearing that station. And then I'm going to go ahead and add some of this blue delphinium. This is also so great for adding a grid of the shape of the bouquet I'm going to have. Just take off that lower piece here, this one as well, and I'm going to place it just off to the side. Here we go, see it a little better like that. Again, just remember to keep your hand nice and loose without the flowers falling. That way they don't get hurt as they're getting placed. I'm going to keep that out a little bit further. That looks so pretty. And you want the flowers again just to float right above the greenery. I'm going to look And I want to place it further away from the other stem, but not too far, so that way it just all stays put together. This one's going to be more upright, the angle of it. And then for my other one, I'm going to take one more towards the front, kind of coming at you a little bit more. You can kind of peek at which stem is best for that. Taking off that foliage at the front. And sometimes too, like if I'm not sure where I want to place it exactly, I'll just take this stem and lay it right next without placing it through the grid of stems, because I'm not positive where I want it. That's totally fine. You can play around with it. So yeah, I think that one looks a little bit better right here, so I'm going to place it right like that in front of the rose. And then sometimes if it's a little hard to poke it through, you can find the stem on the other side and then just pull. Sometimes that's a little bit easier on the flower stem as well. Take off that lower piece. So right now, this is my 4th piece of delphinium. I'm going to save one piece to go in the back because I'm noticing it's starting to get a little bit flat back there. And again, you want to just take breaks throughout your design and really notice if it's starting to get flat. And I think it's great to have, an obvious front and back of your design, but for pictures and just for the whole integrity of the bouquet, you want it to look great at all angles, all the time. So, also, these are some of the scraps from the lower stem that I have. I like to hold on to these. I think they're so pretty and they can be kind of wispy. So if you have something like this, place it off to the side. We can add those later or use it for detail work like corsages or boutonnieres. So clear that off. I'm going to take this last piece of delphinium I was talking about, and I'm going to put it right here in the back, kind of coming towards the bride. You don't want to be poking out too far because she's going to be holding it against her midsection, so you don't want it poking her, but also gives her something pretty to look at. There we go. Just like so. Tuck it down a little bit deeper. There we go. I'm going to go through again and just trim just a few inches off of these stems. You don't want to cut too much off yet, but on some of these longer stems, it can kind of poke and get caught on your shirt or other flowers, so it just is helpful to keep trimming them down as you go. So we have a really great base for our flowers. Now I'm going to add some more pieces. This is another line flower I love to use. This is peach stock. And I'm kind of going to place it in some of the areas where I have the delphinium just to be a backup for that design, because I love kind of keeping it nice and gardeny. So I'm going to place it nearby the delphinium. Sometimes if it's getting a little caught, since these stems are so bulky, just give it a little wiggle. Just twisting softly as you put it in, that'll really help get it in there in a great spot. If your hand starts to get a little achy, sometimes this happens, what I like to do, you can literally take a rubber band and then just go ahead and take a rubber band and go ahead and seal it off where you're at. That way you don't have to hold your hand so strictly. I found I've gotten used to it now, but in the beginning that was a lifesaver. Or what's even better, sometimes you can take a zip tie and zip tie around it. That way, if you want to change something or as you add to it, it's getting too big for the zip tie, you can just snip the zip tie away, but it gives your hand a break in the meantime. So that's something to keep in mind as well if you're starting to get a little bit sore. As you're going to, you'll probably see some like bald spots or some bare spots. So just like really pay attention to where you want those pops of color. This is where it's at right now. I might be a little bit too far from the camera actually for you guys to really see. Hopefully you guys can see. Again, just kind of laying it in front to see if I really want it there before I place it through all the flowers. I think I'm going to place this one here and then add one more to the front right there to really blend it all in. I think that would look really nice. Yeah, let's do that. Change my mind. I'm going to put this one in the back as well instead of in the front. That is the beauty of eyeing it before you commit to it. Sometimes you change your minds, and that is okay. Another thing that I learned from a designer that has been so helpful, it was actually one of the very first things I learned about floral design, is work in triangles. And what she was saying by that is kind of have like a triangle shape with all the flowers that you put in. So with each flower variety you're using, place it in a triangle design like you can see here. This rose, and this rose makes a perfect triangle. And they'll be at different depths, but it just does something. Like it draws your eyes in and it helps create balance in the bouquet as you go. And I have just, I don't know, it's always stuck with me. I feel like it's really helped when sometimes you get stuck on a design, and as long as you stick by that, it just, I don't know, it always works out in the end. So I'm going to go in with this second kind of rose. It's a really nice peach color, and it'll really tie in that peach stalk. I love to save some of the bigger focal flowers too for the front, because obviously that's what's going to be in the most pictures, and that's what everyone's going to see the most. So making sure to set aside some of your best flowers for those key moments are really great to do as well. Again, making sure not to tuck it in too far because you don't want it to go flat. So this one's sticking out a little bit more than the others, and it looks really nice because sometimes it can kind of get stuck in the greenery and blend in too much. So keeping it nice and loose is really helpful. Just giving this one a little wiggle because the green is starting to get a little bit tighter. Woo. What's great too is that this has stayed a really solid grid, so it's not, I know it's not going to go anywhere, which is really great because sometimes bouquets on wedding days can get pretty thrown around, literally at the bouquet toss too at the end of the night. So it's just nice that knowing that your work is going to stay steady throughout the day, even with all the movement, is something really great. Again, making sure not to let it be too flat there. Sometimes it just really helps me to squint and hold it away and just see, again, like where are any holes? Is it starting to get a little too messy? Like this piece of solid Dago is making some of the other flowers get hidden. I'm literally going to take my clippers and I'm just going to clip off the very head of it because it just is getting a little messy there in the front. There we go. I'm also going to take out this piece of eucalyptus and move it more into the front because it was getting a little too hidden in the back there. I'm just going to have it placed right, coming right out towards you. I think that looks a little bit better than where it was used before. Pull out this rose a tad. There we go. Already it's just really coming together, and we still have a good bit of flowers left to place, so that's really great. too, I'm going to place this rose pretty deep in, so that way it just has a ton of dimension, and it's not just only the greens at the base creating that grid, but like it has some depth. That'll look really nice in there. Let's see, I think it's time to add one of these other pink roses. I'm going to save one of these pink roses for the end in case we need just a showstopper moment, keeping some of those key flowers until you're more close to being finished and look really nice. I'm going to put this one right in the front. Something really great about flowers is this is a skill that you can take with you forever. Like, learning to have confidence with flowers is such a fun thing to have and enjoy, because next time you're at the grocery store or Trader Joe's has really great flowers I've actually found. But you'll walk by and you'll say to yourself, I can make those look even better. And that is such a great thing, because flowers make such great gifts to friends, and yeah, they're so helpful. They just bring people so much joy, and that's something really special to have under your belt, to be able to gift to people, and especially in this industry, flowers just make things a lot better. I decided to move one of my roses. It was getting a little lost where it was, so I just gently pulled it out, and we're going to move it around just a little bit. Again, if your hand is getting sore, take a quick moment, grab a zip tie. Sometimes it's easier if someone helps you, just tie it off, and you can kind of place it back, get refreshed, see how things are looking, tweak it a little bit here and there. It's always so helpful to do that. Especially too if you have that mirror, that really helps get a glimpse of the front of it. That's where I'm at right now. I'm going to take a quick pause, just kind of squint my eyes, see where we're at. It's looking pretty good. I think I'm going to move a piece of stock. It needs something soft colored right here. But you know what? Actually, we have this really beautiful peach hypericum. I'm going to try to place that right there instead and see if that blends in with that peach stock a little bit better. Sometimes you'll find you don't need the same flower to tie in a spot. Like if you have more color on one side, it can be a different kind of flower that's the same color and it still just ties it all in together. Sometimes that's all you need. So I'm going to bring that peach hypericum, these little berries right here. I'm going to take off the greenery just because we don't want to lose the other flowers. We really want the focus to be on all the really pretty flowers and not the greens. There we go. Kind of keeping that up a little bit higher. Again, we can always pull it down later if we need to. Take off these leaves. Place this one right towards the front. Sometimes too, when I'm making a bridal bouquet, I will make myself a cozy drink before I start and think about the person I'm making it for and what they're really going for. Just like taking a moment to have a game plan before you get started and to prep goes a long way, I have found. And plus, it just makes it a really more enjoyable experience. I actually had a cup of coffee right before I started this, and I'm one of those people, I can have coffee any time of the day and it does not keep me up. So I drink coffee at 10 p.m. Sometimes later. I can go right to sleep after. So if you're doing it at night though and you're not like that, maybe don't choose coffee. Okay, just adding a few more pieces of this peach hypericum berry in here. I'll place that like right, just like that. This solidago right here is looking a little bit too messy, so I'm going to clip just a little bit off of that as well. Again, we do not want it to look too messy, so another piece of this hypericum berry. I love these little detail flowers like this. They're small and intricate, but they just add so much. I love that. I'm going to play around with where exactly I want it. I think I'm going to put this one in the back, theoretically for the bride to look at. sticking out just a little, keeping that shape. Okay, I'm going to take this rose. I'm noticing it's a little bit too much pink over here, so I'm going to take this one off to the side, I think. Let's see. It'll also look really pretty right there. Maybe I'll do that there. Sometimes you just need a bigger flower to fill in the space. That looks a lot better there. Okay, and then I saved these ranunculus towards the end just because they're such a dainty flower. And they're really top heavy. I feel like honestly the bloom is too heavy for their stem, and they're easy to get damaged. So sometimes I save the more fragile flowers for later, just so you don't end up breaking them or crushing the stems. They need to stay hydrated the day of, so that way they look perfect for the time the ceremony comes around. And these, specifically ranunculus, are so great to place towards the end because they just dance above the other flowers. They look so wispy and just really dreamy. So I'm going to put this one right up at the top so I can kind of just dance above the other flowers, just really carefully placing it through the stem so it doesn't get damaged. Move my hand around so I don't crush the stem. There we go. Now I take just a few of these and place them throughout, mainly in like the top and the front, just because even if it is in the back it would look really pretty, but most likely it would get kind of crushed. So just thinking of that beforehand and doing it really strategically. Let's do one of these. It's July 3rd, and there's fireworks going off, so if it sounds dangerous like gunshots or anything, thankfully it's not. It's just a bunch of fireworks. So, a little noisy to be doing this, but just making do. That looks so pretty. There's just something special about ranunculus. It's a really great flower. Just threading it through gently through the other stems again because they are so fragile. Actually, sometimes with ranunculus, what I love to do is I will wire them beforehand, and you can just take like a 16 gauge wire and literally hook it right through the very center of the head and do it 3 to 4 inches deep into the flower, and that way it'll stay solid throughout the day, because sometimes it'll look perfect when you put it in the bouquet, but then they'll tend to wilt a little later on. So just keeping that in mind. A lot of these ranunculus are having some trouble staying up. A little too top heavy. I probably should have wired some before I started. Maybe after this video I'll pull some out and rewire them so that way they stay where I want them, because they're having some trouble. Yeah, I'll have to rewire these after the video. But lastly, I'm going to take some of this astrantia. It's really lovely, also just really soft and can kind of float above the other flowers. Place that here. I like to put it kind of at like the top, kind of like a Y shape. One here and one here, one here, again working with the triangle shape, but also just keeping it towards the sides because it has that really lovely, like almost floppy look. It'll just keep the shape really nice. Tuck that rose in a little bit deeper. That looks a lot better. I'm going to pull this one up a little. So again, you don't want it to be like the same height. You want to give some depth, some height. Just really goes a long way with the shape. and the movement of the bouquet. Okay, I'm coming towards the end. Oh, and we're actually right at 30 minutes, perfect. I still have these. I'm gonna have to come back and rewire some ranunculus and then place them, but I want to show you guys this too with some of the loose stems of the bottom of the delphinium. I'm gonna take some and I'm gonna place it towards the side just to fill in any gaps, because it's sometimes you'll like be designing and you won't notice a bare spot until the end. So just kind of placing it in some holes, especially two in the back, because they're really pretty and it's just like a second flower from one flower stem, so it's really helpful. There we go, just placing those. You want to just make sure that they're long enough to reach water, because you don't want them wilting closer to the ceremony because they haven't been drinking enough, so just keeping that in mind as well. I think I'm all out of ranunculus that are upright. Got this one down a little bit. Okay, yeah, my ranunculus are starting to flop over because they are too top heavy. So I'm going to take a pause and rewire them, and then I will show you guys more up close to make sure to take some pictures. But this is where we are at. As you can see, the ranunculus are just so top heavy, they're just falling on the roses. So I want them to be more like this bouncy, playful one. So I'm going to wire some, and then I will take some finishing photos. Also, sorry, this is 31 minutes. I think you guys said 30 or under. I feel like I talked too much. Yeah, hopefully this was a good walkthrough. I'm excited to hear from you guys. I will make sure to take some photos once I finish the wiring of these guys. Yeah, excited to hear from you. Thank you for dealing with the firework noises and the dogs. Thankfully though, they weren't too loud, but thanks for your time.